More than a century ago, the United States was a land of horse trails and muddy dirt roads. Travel was slow, difficult, and often dangerous. But then came the Lincoln Highway, a bold idea that captured the nation's imagination and reshaped America forever. Beneath today's modern I-80 corridor, more than 100 years of forgotten history still lie hidden. Today, let's slow down and uncover the buried memories of this remarkable road. Long before automobiles became common, traveling across the country was a challenge. Roads were little more than dirt paths used by farmers and ranchers. Rain turned them into deep mud, and when they dried, hard ruts made travel uncomfortable. Horse-drawn wagons could manage, but bicycles couldn't, and it was cyclists who first recognized the need for better roads. They were the true pioneers of the good roads movement. But once automobiles began appearing, wealthy auto industry leaders stepped in, bringing money, attention, and influence. This shift marked a turning point. With financial power behind it, the movement could finally push for a nationwide network of durable, reliable roads. Among the early automotive visionaries was Carl G. Fisher. Cyclists had planted the idea of better roads, but entrepreneurs like Fisher had the means to make it real, laying the foundation for what would become the Lincoln Highway. Carl G. Fisher, an Indiana businessman and a major figure in the early automotive era, was driven by ambition and showmanship. He co-founded the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and grew wealthy through Prestolite, a company that manufactured acetylene headlights for nearly every early American car. Fisher's life was a classic rags-to-riches story. After his father abandoned the family, he quit school at 12 and worked odd jobs selling newspapers, cigars, and candy on trains. His passion for bicycles led him to open a repair shop at 17, which eventually drew him into the world of automobiles and racing. By 1912, aware of the country's poor roads, Fisher envisioned something unprecedented, a hard-surfaced highway stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific. He called it the Coast-to-Coast Rock Highway. His goal was simple: boost commerce, spark tourism, and give Americans a way to explore their vast nation. He hoped to complete it by the 1915 San Francisco Exposition. "Let's build it before we're too old to enjoy it," he proclaimed, and industry leaders listened. In September 1912, Fisher gathered the major figures of the automobile industry and asked them to fund his dream. What followed was extraordinary. In the years before the Lincoln Highway, automobiles were luxuries for the wealthy. Cars like Studebakers and Maxwells were fine machines, but far beyond the reach of ordinary Americans. Everything changed in 1908 with the Ford Model T, the first car mass-produced on a moving assembly line. It was simple, rugged, reliable, and affordable. With high ground clearance and easy-to-repair parts, it was perfectly suited to America's rough roads. As Ford streamlined production, the price fell dramatically to just $260 by 1925. Sales exploded. 1 million Model Ts were built by 1915. By 1927, more than 15 million had been produced. The Model T put America on wheels. But even with millions of cars on the road, there was still one major problem. Good roads were scarce. After Packard President Henry Joy pledged financial support, he proposed renaming Fisher's project the Lincoln Highway. Fisher loved the idea. Abraham Lincoln had united the nation a century earlier. What better name for a road meant to connect America from coast to coast? With a powerful name and strong backing, the Lincoln Highway Association formed on July 1, 1913. Joy became its president. Fisher served as vice president. The association patched together existing wagon trails, dirt roads, and newly built sections into a single continuous route. This wasn't just a road, it was a symbol of progress and unity. The Lincoln Highway, stretching from Times Square in New York to Lincoln Park in San Francisco, became America's first true cross-country route, sparking a new era of travel, adventure, and national connection. The name ensured that, from the very beginning, the highway carried a powerful sense of history tied to a national symbol of unity. The Lincoln Highway Association worked relentlessly to turn this scattered patchwork of roads into a widely recognized and celebrated route. And if this video brings back good memories, feel free to tap the hype button below. Your support helps keep these stories alive. On September 14, 1913, the official route of the Lincoln Highway was announced to the public. It was an ambitious attempt to connect existing roads into a single transcontinental corridor stretching more than 3,300 miles across 12 states and 4 time zones. Although mostly a chain of old trails and unimproved roads, it instantly became the most famous road in America. The announcement sparked a national wave of excitement. Celebrations erupted across the country, and on October 31, 1913, hundreds of towns along the route held dedication events, bonfires, speeches, fireworks, parades, transforming the unveiling of the highway into a patriotic spectacle. It wasn't just a line drawn on a map. It became a symbol of American optimism and the freedom to explore. Before the Lincoln Highway, crossing the continent by car took up to 2 months. With its creation, travelers suddenly imagined the trip becoming faster and far more accessible. The route began in Times Square, New York, and ended in San Francisco at the Palace of the Legion of Honor, a connection the country had never experienced before. But once the celebrations faded, the harsh reality came into view. The Lincoln Highway was still just a loose network of roads, many unmarked and almost entirely unpaved. Most of it consisted of dirt, mud, or scattered gravel, with only brief paved stretches inside major towns. Rain quickly turned parts of the road into deep mud holes, and without proper grading or embankments, even marked sections could become nearly impassable. Some travelers had to cut away embankments or move boulders to get through. Others risked using railroad bridges, sometimes checking train schedules, sometimes not. The gap between Carl Fisher's dream of a solid, rock-surfaced highway and the actual makeshift road became painfully clear. Even with the route officially declared, services were almost non-existent. Anyone attempting a coast-to-coast trip still had to bring their own fuel, tools, tents, food, and water. Turning this scattered string of trails into a functional road would take years of effort. Yet the spirit of adventure was strong, and with affordable cars like the Model T, Americans embraced the challenge. This was the birth of the Great American Road Trip. Early journeys were more expedition than vacation. The 1916 official Lincoln Highway Guidebook advised travelers to pack camping gear, canned food, and sturdy clothing. 4 or 5 spare tires were recommended, 6 if you had room. Chains were essential for mud, and travelers carried jacks, shovels, and wooden planks to escape deep ruts. Drivers encountered up to 18 fence gates between Laramie and Rollins, each one needing to be opened and closed by hand. This was a far cry from the effortless driving that would come decades later on interstate highways. But the struggle, the preparation, and the sense of discovery made these early trips unforgettable. If you remember the first car your family ever traveled in, or your most memorable trip, feel free to share it. Among the earliest explorers of the Lincoln Highway was Effie Price Gladding. In 1914, she and her husband drove from San Francisco to New Jersey, creating one of the first written accounts of the entire route. Her view was defined by optimism. She recalled that they chose from the start to accept whatever came their way, valuing simplicity over luxury. This mindset, she wrote, helped them face the road's constant challenges. Cheyenne, Wyoming, one of 5 state capitals along the route, renamed its 16th street to Lincoln Way at the association's request, a name that remains today. Many early travelers stayed at the Plains Hotel, built in 1911 and considered the best accommodation between Chicago and San Francisco. Those who couldn't afford it camped at the free campground north of town, where by 1920 more than 40,000 people had stayed. Effie's memories of Wyoming were vivid, especially arriving in Laramie on the eve of July 4th, when ranchers and cowboys gathered in their finest boots, silk shirts, and bright ties. Travelers like Gladding helped preserve the atmosphere and challenges of the early road. But automobiles on rural roads weren't welcomed by everyone. Some farmers and ranchers helped stranded motorists at their own expense, while others resented the wealthy early drivers who sped through and sometimes ran over chickens or livestock. In retaliation, some farmers spread tax on the road. In Wyoming, a few ranchers even threatened motorists with guns. Other tactics were less dangerous, but just as frustrating. Road guides often gave directions based on landmarks, like turn right at the Red Barn. So farmers annoyed by travelers would simply paint their barns white, sending drivers miles off course. Over time, hostility faded. The Model T earned rural respect because it could handle mud, rocks, and ruts, and could even power farm equipment. Still, obstacles remained. Fences blocked the way, and drivers had to stop and deal with gate after gate along vast stretches of Wyoming. Meanwhile, towns began fighting passionately for the highway. Between Laramie and Rawlins, the fiercest competition was between Medicine Bow and Elk Mountain. Both had hotels, the Virginia Hotel in Medicine, Bow and the Elk Mountain Hotel, and both lobbied hard to win their place on the official route. August Gus Riem, the businessman and first mayor of Medicine Bow, owned the Grand Virginia Hotel, built in 1911 with electric lights and indoor plumbing. But just 2 months after it opened, the Union Pacific stopped servicing the town, leaving Riem with a huge investment and no passengers to fill his rooms. When he heard about the proposed transcontinental highway, he became determined to bring it through Medicine Bow to save his hotel. Elk Mountain, meanwhile, advertised its excellent accommodations, fresh springs, and a route 18 miles shorter. But Riem refused to surrender. He rallied local businessmen and announced that if no one else would make the decision, they would take matters into their own hands. Together, they created about 60 homemade Lincoln Highway signs themselves. As the convoy of cars rolled toward Medicine Bow, they saw the freshly placed homemade signs lining the road, giving the impression of an officially sanctioned route. By the time the representatives from the Laramie and Rawlins Chambers of Commerce arrived in town, Gus Riem had prepared a full display of hospitality. They were greeted with a cocktail reception and an extravagant dinner inside the elegant Virginia Hotel, its chandeliers glowing above the guests like symbols of triumph. When the evening concluded, Riem and his allies contacted the state engineer and argued that the route was already marked, the decision essentially made. The engineer partly agreed, and just like that, Medicine Bow secured its place along the Lincoln Highway. By the 1920s, the rise of automobile tourism had captured the imagination of everyday Americans. With better wages and shorter work weeks, ordinary families finally had the time to explore. They packed camping gear, loaded their cars with food, blankets, and whatever supplies they could afford, and followed the guidebooks west in search of new horizons. These travelers often had little money beyond what was needed for fuel and groceries. They camped wherever they found an open field or empty lot, usually without permission. They became known as the Tin Can Tourists, not because they drove Model Ts, but because so much of their food came from tin cans. Effie Price Gladding wrote about seeing the remnants of their roadside camps: dented tin teapots, broken chairs, piles of old cans scattered across the landscape. To her, these abandoned camps were silent monuments to earlier travelers, just as the inscriptions left by pioneers on Independence Rock had been in the 1840s and 1850s. Along one stretch between Rock Springs and Rawlins, motorists even carved their names and initials into the stone, adding their own mark to the story of the American road. As traffic grew, local economies flourished. Gas stations, diners, repair shops, and roadside attractions thrived as more travelers passed through. But the sight of people camping haphazardly across ranch land and farmland sparked a backlash. In response, towns began establishing their own organized campgrounds. They quickly realized that if they offered travelers a clean, convenient place to stay, especially a free one, those travelers would spend money in the community. Small wooden cabins soon appeared, offering protection from the wind and a bit of privacy. Arranged side by side, they evolved into the earliest roadside motels. Many even had small garages between the cabins, creating a new style of lodging that would eventually become iconic across America. One of the most successful ventures to emerge from this era was Little America. Founded by Stephen Mather in 1934, after he survived a brutal snowstorm, it began as a humble stop near Granger, Wyoming. With only 12 cabins, 2 gas pumps, and a cafe with 24 seats, it was modest but welcoming. Mather named the place Little America after Admiral Byrd's Antarctic base and adopted the penguin as its logo. Over the decades, the modest outpost grew into a major roadside destination. By the 1960s, Little America boasted 55 gas pumps and advertised itself as the largest service station in the world. Even today, it remains a nostalgic monument to the golden age of the Lincoln Highway along Interstate 80. For travelers from the East Coast, a journey across Wyoming offered a dramatic and unforgettable shift in landscape. Those crossing the Laramie Mountains found themselves confronted with a dry, otherworldly terrain, strange rock formations, long stretches of open land, and a striking absence of trees. Many visitors were captivated by the rugged beauty of the West they had only seen in movies. The cowboy, whose image took shape in the early 20th century, became a living figure. Travelers encountered ranch hands driving cattle, men in boots and wide-brimmed hats, and scenes straight out of Western films. Cafes, saloons, and hotels along the Lincoln Highway provided countless opportunities for visitors to meet real cowboys and ranchers, further feeding the romantic image of the American West. The road also passed through the vast Red Desert, an enormous 9,000 square mile expanse where water flowed neither east nor west but simply evaporated into the sky. Travelers marveled at the towering buttes and massive plateaus carved by centuries of wind and weather natural sculptures, rising like fortress walls along the horizon. This landscape gave visitors a deeper understanding of the magnitude of their country and the overwhelming diversity of its geography. The Lincoln Highway introduced many Americans to a sense of limitless possibility and the feeling that the West was still a place of discovery. When the Lincoln Highway Association pushed for government support to improve road conditions, Washington began to take notice, especially the War Department. In 1919, Field Secretary Harry Osterman persuaded the military to send a cross-country motor convoy to test the feasibility of moving troops by road. The journey was grueling. Roads west of Cheyenne were little more than rough dirt tracks with weak culverts and fragile bridges. Eisenhower recorded that 14 bridges were damaged by the convoy in a single day. Vehicles broke down constantly. Crews had to rebuild structures, dig out trucks buried in sand, and fight through terrible stretches of swampy desert road. After 62 exhausting days, the convoy reached San Francisco. The mission proved its point. The United States desperately needed modern, paved highways for national defense. This outcome was a political victory for the LHA. Their efforts shifted toward securing state and federal funding. And in 1921, the Federal Highway Act provided $75 million for road construction. But this achievement also foreshadowed the end of the Lincoln Highway as a named route. As new roads emerged, each with different names, confusion grew until the federal government introduced a numbered highway system. The Lincoln Highway became part of U.S. Route 30 for most of its length, with portions also designated US 1, 530, 40, and 50. With the creation of a unified national system, The purpose of the original LHA had been fulfilled, and in 1927, the organization officially disbanded. Today, much of the original route has disappeared beneath Interstate 80. Some abandoned sections still lie parallel to the interstate, cracked and crumbling under the Wyoming sun. But interest in the old highway revived in the 1980s, thanks largely to Drake Hawkinson's influential photo essay, which encouraged travelers to leave the interstates and rediscover forgotten America. In 1992, a new Lincoln Highway Association was created to preserve what remains of the old road. Hundreds gathered in 2013 to celebrate the highway's centennial, a testament to its enduring legacy. In an era when travel is often rushed and efficiency is valued over experience, the Lincoln Highway invites us to slow down. It encouraged travelers to leave the interstate and follow the old road, to visit the overlooked towns and hidden landmarks, and to rediscover the joy that early motorists felt a century ago. It represents not just a route, but a way of traveling, one that values curiosity, patience, and the simple thrill of the open road. Every star etched into the sidewalk told a story, and those stories felt alive, echoing through every step taken along the street. Clubs like Club Bang, Beat It, and Clockwork were vibrant hotspots in the 1980s, drawing young people with pounding music, neon lights, and an intense electric atmosphere. Wilshire Boulevard, one of Los Angeles's largest and most historic avenues, reflected the incredible diversity of the city. Stretching nearly from downtown to the Pacific Ocean, it passed through modern skyscrapers, the Art Deco charm of the Miracle Mile, and the elegant streets of Beverly Hills. In the 1980s, Wilshire was a corridor of ambition, growth, and cultural expression. The Miracle Mile Museum District, anchored by LACMA, expanded and modernized, symbolizing Los Angeles's maturing identity as a city that celebrated art and knowledge. New towers rose, stores flourished, and the boulevard buzzed with the energy of a metropolis, racing toward the future. For photographer Annie Lasky, who captured more than 900 color photos of Wilshire Boulevard in 1979, Wilshire was a main artery where everything happened. Her images preserve in L.A. in transition historic statues, unique buildings, glittering billboards, and colorful storefronts, each piece telling a chapter of a city constantly reinventing itself. Abbot Kinney Boulevard in Venice, though not officially renamed from Washington 9. Boulevard, until the late 1980s, was already a magnet for free spirits. It drew artists, musicians, and writers seeking a place that felt raw, creative, and unapologetically different. Dennis Hopper famously lived in the area, adding to its rebellious bohemian soul. Architectural pioneers experimented freely here, producing unconventional homes like the Pink House or Sea House designed by Fred Fisher. Owners invited architects to be crazy, resulting in bold and groundbreaking structures that gave Venice its unique character. Abbot Kinney embodied community and creativity. Small shops, intimate cafes, and independent galleries thrived, offering a refreshing contrast to the commercial polish found elsewhere in L.A. The street also helped inspire the Santa Monica School or Los Angeles School of Architects, who embraced the city's rough textures, plywood, shingles, metal, and transformed them into avant-garde designs. The boulevard was part of a broader transformation of Venice, rising from a rough, sometimes dangerous area into a stylish cultural landmark. Ventura Boulevard, running through the San Fernando Valley, offered a different slice of Southern California life. In the 1980s, it became known as Sushi Row, after a rapid boom in sushi restaurants, a trend that introduced countless Angelenos to what would become a beloved cuisine. Ventura captured the suburban heartbeat of L.A., movie theaters packed with teens, record stores blasting the latest hits, and cruisers rolling by in customized cars. Unlike Hollywood's glitter or the Sunset Strip's chaos, Ventura felt grounded, authentic. It was where families built communities and dreams simmered quietly, waiting for a spark. Tom Petty immortalized the boulevard in Free Fallon, capturing its atmosphere of sun-drenched drives, young love, and everyday magic. For many, Ventura was the real heart of 1980s LA. The Venice Boardwalk, by contrast, was a non-stop circus, a place to watch people, to be watched, or simply to get lost in the kaleidoscope of humanity. Famous for its stylish roller skaters and unpredictable performers, the boardwalk has always embraced eccentricity. Before the police station was built, it was described as a free-for-all, where anything could happen from street art to questionable nightlife. Muscle Beach bodybuilders flexed in the sun, while skateboarders defined the gritty, athletic, punk-inspired look of the era. Backward caps, oversized flannels, baggy pants, and brightly colored sneakers. The boardwalk embodied freedom, rebellion, and improv performance. Every day was a show, and everyone who walked it became part of the spectacle. Crenshaw Boulevard became one of the most symbolic streets of inner-city Los Angeles, especially in hip-hop and 1990s culture. In the 1980s, the area was shaped by the presence of gangs like the Bloods and Crips, tens of thousands strong, creating intense social challenges and frequent confrontations with heavily militarized police. Graffiti expressed anger, identity, and territorial claims. Amid this tension, a powerful cultural movement was rising, the rise of hip-hop fashion and music. Brands like Fila, Puma, Reebok, Nike, and Adidas became essential to youth identity. Crenshaw symbolized struggle, pride, creativity, and resilience, a place where music and art gave voice to a generation determined to be heard. Rodeo Drive, by contrast, represented the glamour of Los Angeles, the world of luxury cars, designer boutiques, and international fashion. Its transformation began in the 1960s, when Fred Hayman opened Giorgio Beverly Hills, the street's first true luxury boutique. Aldo Gucci followed in 1968, and soon, major brands like Van Cleef and Arpels, Vidal Sassoon, and Ralph Lauren established stores there. Richard Carroll, former co-chairman of the Rodeo Drive Committee, noted that the new wing of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel in 1971 turned rodeo into a global fashion destination. By the late 1970s, advertising campaigns cemented its identity as the shopping street of the rich and famous. By 1980, it generated a quarter of Beverly Hills' sales tax revenue. Films like Pretty Woman later immortalized it as a stage for modern fairy tales. Rose Avenue in Venice spent years as a rough, sometimes unsafe area by night, overshadowed by neighboring streets. But it transformed rapidly, seemingly overnight, into a bustling corridor filled with trendy restaurants, wellness studios, and high-end boutiques. Even longtime locals were surprised by how quickly it changed. The arrival of major chains like Whole Foods accelerated the shift, bringing investment and new residents. Before this rapid evolution, Rose Avenue was known for Pioneer Bakery, where locals grabbed fresh bread and morning coffee, and for an old warehouse converted into artist studios. Its transformation reflected Venice's constant reinvention and the powerful effect of community investment. Main Street in Venice and Santa Monica played a major role in the development of modern California cuisine during the 1980s. Restaurants like Cafe California pioneered fresh, innovative cooking with local ingredients and lighter flavors. Main Street was also home to long-standing bars such as the Brigga Gay Bar from the 50s and 60s, known for lively music and a friendly atmosphere. West Beach Cafe became another beloved gathering place where locals and artists met to talk, relax, and enjoy Venice's vibrant nightlife. Together with Abbot Kinney and Rose Avenue, Main Street formed one of the most walkable and inviting areas on the West Side, drawing both locals and tourists who wanted to enjoy the ocean air and creative spirit of Venice. It reflected the evolving tastes of Angelenos and became an essential part of the city's culinary and social landscape. Mulholland Drive is famous for its winding roads amid the hills. curving through the Hollywood Hills and the Santa Monica Mountains, offering a sense of adventure and romance. This road frequently appears in music and film, becoming a cultural icon of Los Angeles, forever tied to stories of love, mystery, and crime. The road offers stunning views of the city, from the dazzling lights of downtown to the distant Pacific coastline, drawing both locals who want to admire the night skyline and international tourists eager to experience LA's unique beauty. Mulholland Drive evokes the mysterious and romantic stories often told about Los Angeles, suggesting a sense of beauty and enigma, a place where the line between reality and legend blurs. It is considered one of the most famous roads in LA, rivaling Sunset and Rodeo Drive in recognition and cultural impact. The road is so well known that a major film, Mulholland Drive by director David Lynch, was named after it, cementing its place in popular culture and adding to its irresistible allure. Once the center of Los Angeles until the 1920s, downtown LA experienced a period of decline and many attempts at revival to reclaim its former glory. However, in the 1980s, the area witnessed a strong surge of modern skyscraper development, encouraged by Mayor Tom Bradley to create an impressive skyline to solidify LA's standing as a global city. The construction boom aimed to attract large businesses, bringing significant tax revenues that could be invested in social services and infrastructure. The 1984 Olympic Games cemented Los Angeles' rise as a mature global city, attracting worldwide attention and massive investment. Domestic and foreign investors poured money into development projects, turning downtown LA into a bustling construction zone. Planners also envisioned the area as the hub of LA's future public transportation network with modern subway and bus systems. The Ladings community brought renewed commercial vitality to the declining Broadway Avenue, infusing it with vibrant shops, restaurants, and markets, enriching the area's culture and economy. In City of Quartz, 1990, Mike Davis argued that the wealthy manipulated downtown LA's landscape to exclude the poor and undesirable, creating a stark social divide. Nevertheless, downtown still represents an ambitious and constantly changing Los Angeles, a place where wealth, development, and complex social realities collide. Among the streets mentioned above, which one brings back the strongest memories of vibrant 1980s Los Angeles? Share your story in the comments below. The Pacific Coast Highway is one of California's most famous roads, offering breathtaking coastal views. It's described as a perfect playground for classic cars, where convertibles cruised along under the sun, creating the ideal image of freedom and abandon. The PCH is an essential part of California car culture and cruising, a pastime born in the post-war 1950s and 1960s. These cars symbolized freedom, personal style, and self-expression in a community passionate about speed and beauty. The PCH offers a sense of freedom associated with classic cars, rock music blasting from the radio, and the endless coastline, making it an ideal backdrop for romantic drives, weekend adventures, or watching the sunset over the ocean. Despite its fame, some suggest that not everyone on the East Coast knows its name, which only adds to its mystique. Recently, California lifted the cruising ban, an effort to preserve an important cultural tradition and a reason for celebration among classic car enthusiasts. La Brea Avenue is famous for the La Brea Tar Pits, a significant historical and scientific landmark in the heart of the city, offering a striking glimpse into Los Angeles's ancient past. The road symbolizes a connection between geological history and modern life, where fossils of prehistoric animals are excavated beside skyscrapers and bustling streets. La Brea evokes memories of school field trips, family outings, and endless curiosity about the natural history of a land once inhabited by mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and other giant creatures. The tar pits, along with the museum displaying millions of fossils, offer visitors a deep look into the ancient ecosystem that once covered the Los Angeles basin. Skid Row became the epicenter of homelessness in downtown Los Angeles, an area where the government and many residents allowed homelessness to remain visible. In the 1980s, homelessness surged due to reduced funding for social programs under Reagan-era policies, major job losses in manufacturing, and a severe lack of affordable housing. Between 1978 and 1982, Los Angeles lost 75,000 manufacturing jobs, while rents rose more than 50% between 1980 and 1990. By the mid-80s, an estimated 35,000 people were homeless in the city, revealing a dark side of the American dream. Homeless individuals were often seen as a public nuisance, leading to police crackdowns and forced displacements intended to push them out of sight. In 1987, Mayor Tom Bradley launched a cleanup campaign targeting Skid Row, treating homelessness as something to be eliminated rather than understood. Ronald Reagan controversially claimed that homelessness was a choice, a statement widely criticized as inhumane. Skid Row became a symbol of painful social realities, starkly contrasting the glamour of other Los Angeles streets. Lincoln Boulevard in Venice is described as a crowded, chaotic main traffic route full of urban noise. Despite the congestion, the street hosted local surf shops that reflected Venice's beach culture and served ocean lovers. Over time, rising rents in surrounding areas pushed people to settle along Lincoln, creating new community dynamics and shifting demographics. Lincoln Boulevard represents LA's ongoing urban evolution, neighborhoods adapting to development pressures while trying to maintain their identity. Some say Lincoln will always be Lincoln, implying that despite change, it will forever remain a busy and vital artery of the city. Figueroa Street is remembered as a place full of energy, known among locals for its authenticity and grit. It was a street where people sought entertainment, work, or simply the pulse of everyday life. In the 1980s, Figueroa was a major artery connecting commercial centers with residential neighborhoods, fostering the growth of small businesses, grocery stores, and family-run restaurants. The street reflected the multicultural richness of Los Angeles, offering a community-oriented view of the city far from the glamorous tourist image. Santa Monica Boulevard is one of LA's most famous streets, often referenced in songs and media, becoming an icon of nightlife and entertainment. Running through West Hollywood's entertainment district, it was home to popular nightclubs where young people gathered to dance, listen to music, and enjoy the electric nightlife. Close to the Sunset Strip, the boulevard formed part of a non-stop entertainment zone where music and art thrived. It evokes memories of endless nights, loud music, and the free spirit of 1980s LA, an era of bold creativity. The street's legacy endures through pop culture, live music history, and its reputation as a central hub of youthful exploration. San Pedro, the last area on this list, became a haven for young architects inspired by the raw beauty of industrial materials and the city's rugged character. The neighborhood was home to innovative architectural works in the early 1980s, including avant-garde buildings designed with plywood, corrugated metal, and other unconventional materials associated with the Santa Monica or Los Angeles School of Architecture. These designs broke traditional rules and expressed deeply personal, locally inspired aesthetics. San Pedro symbolizes LA's constant reinvention, blending old and new and creating a vision of the city focused on raw, functional beauty. It remains evidence of Los Angeles's adaptability and creativity through architecture. So, what do you think? Does today's Los Angeles still carry the free and creative spirit of the 1980s? Or has it become something entirely different? Share your thoughts, memories, and dreams below. Remember, preserving history keeps it alive. If this story resonates with you, like and subscribe to Back to Yesterday so we can continue exploring nostalgic journeys together.